In the heart of Uganda, there's a small village called Alebelebe within the Lira District. Here, amidst the rolling landscapes, lies a story of resilience, loss, and ultimately, the powerful healing that nature can provide. Welcome to Nature Answers, rural stories from a changing planet. We explore stories of how communities in rural sub-Saharan Africa are working with nature to adapt to the climate crisis. I'm your host, Ivy Prosper. Before the Lord's Resistance Army insurgency, Alebelebe Village was alive with abundance. Families farmed, children played, and food was plentiful.
Alebelebe was a very good place before the LRA insurgency. When people grew crops, they yield abundantly. Trees were everywhere, shea seeds were collected and processed into tons of oil. It rained regularly, and people enjoyed huge harvest.
It was a time of community and abundance, where the rhythms of life were dictated by the seasons and the generosity of the land. But this peaceful existence was tragically disrupted by the insurgency of the Lord's Resistance Army. The attacks forced the people of Alebelebe, like Achan Richard and many others, to flee their homes and seek refuge in government-established camps. These were difficult times marked by uncertainty and hardship.
LRA came to our community. It disrupted our lives. They stayed for over 6 years, so we fled our homes and settled in camps. During our stay in the camps, we were taken care of by the government and NGOs. They provided us with foodstuffs.
Life in the camps was far from normal, and those experiences can only be painted by those that have lived them. Everything changed, from your meals to how you sleep, and even how your day unfolds.
Life in the camp was never easy. In the first, you just stayed in one place. In the second, there was no food because we had no garden. All you could do was wait for aid from NGOs and the government. Life there was really hard.
The memories of displacement and fear are still vivid for many in Alebelebe. But eventually, the guns fell silent, and the long journey back home began. Returning to Alebelebe, the community found their homes and livelihood shattered. The infrastructure was damaged, and the familiar patterns of life had been broken. Poverty and hunger became stark realities.
When we came back home, the NGOs and government left us with no support. We had to start earning a living with no animals, no food, yet people were expected to live a happy life.
Desperate to survive, many community members turned to unsustainable farming practices. One of the most damaging was the widespread cutting down of shade trees to produce charcoal for sale. This short-term solution had devastating long-term consequences for the environment. The land grew barren. Drought and famine followed, deepening hunger.
Result of cutting down trees, people started encroaching on swamp. They destroyed a lot of trees and swamps to the extent that when wind came, it even blew away the rain, which affected us.
The very act the community hoped would alleviate their suffering ultimately deepened their crisis. highlighting the delicate balance between human needs and the environment. It was during this critical period that a glimmer of hope emerged. Richard and others received training from Kijani Forestry and Farm Radio International. Through the farm radio programming and community support, they discovered the power of trees.
Some
NGOs started coming to teach us, like Kijani Forestry and Farm Radio International, through their programs on radio. We listened and formed a group so that we also start planting trees and we bring back the radio.
The buzzing of bees brought not just honey, but income. Where there was once hunger, now there was abundance.
These bees are beneficial because I can harvest honey several times a year. For example, I harvest about 3 times and take it to Lira City since there is no good market around here. When I sell it, it helps me pay school fees for my children, buy basic necessities and cover medical bills. These are the benefits I get from beekeeping.
The community embraced these nature-based solutions with remarkable dedication. They witnessed firsthand how restoring the environment directly improved their livelihoods. The return of trees brought back the rains, rejuvenated the soil, and created new opportunities. Apiculture, in particular, became a sweet success story.
My name
is Florence, Achan. The worst of all, we mothers, we suffered a lot because most times the men left to be with friends and we stayed at home, and the children would disturb and we had to look for firewood far, but this is all changing.
The story of Alebelebe is not just about overcoming hardship. It's about rediscovering a way of life that respects and benefits from the natural world. It's a story of hope, resilience, and the understanding that when we listen to nature, it truly does provide the answers. And that's it for this week's episode of Nature Answers, a podcast produced by Farm Radio International. You can learn more about nature-based solutions and the people implementing them by subscribing to Nature Answers wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on social media at Farm Radio or visit us at farmradio.org/natureanswers. And we want to hear from you. Open up the recording app on your phone, tell us your name and where you're listening from, as well as a nature-based solution you're using in your community. Send your recording to natureanswers@farmradio.org, and you may be featured on a future episode. Until next time, I'm your host, Ivy Prosper, coming to you from Accra, Ghana.
This episode was written and produced in Uganda by me, Dorina Inembabazi, with invaluable support from the dedicated teams at Farm Radio International, Radio Simba, Voice of Lango, and the resilient community of Alebelebe Village. Special thanks to Richard, Florence, Paul, Joktan, Abraham, and Hanifa. Your voices, translations, and lived experiences made this podcast possible. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the student volunteers who supported fieldwork through video coverage, sound recording, and photography. Madison and Victor, your dedication and teamwork greatly strengthened the documentation of this story. To the staff at Farm Radio International, Achan, Stephen, Justin, John, Tara, and Blair, your guidance, mentorship, and technical support were instrumental in shaping this story and bringing it to life. A heartfelt thank you to the people of Alebelebe Village for your courage, resilience, and commitment to restoring your land through nature-based solutions. Your willingness to share your memories of hardship, recovery, and hope made this project meaningful and deeply inspiring. Finally, a special thank you to the Government of Canada for funding this project. Your support has made this journey and storytelling possible.
I'm John McGill, one of the producers and the editor of this season of Nature Answers. Farm Radio International compensated community members who participated in our interviews. It is a common practice to compensate a person in this region for the time that they spent being interviewed. Our podcast would exclude many important perspectives if we could only interview those who could afford to step away from their economic activities without compensation. Nature Answers was produced by Farm Radio International, thanks to funding from the Government of Canada.